Hello, everyone. I welcome you all on today's webinar, which is EU's Poison Center Notification, also known as PCN. We are looking at preparing for early 2025 inspections. So myself, Gagan Kumar, I'm from REACHLaw, India, and it's a pleasure to have all of you here with us today. And I guess we have more than 600 participants registering from across the globe for this webinar, and it's clear that companies and businesses are interested and would like to maintain compliance for PCN as they approach also for 2025. And we understand this PCN regulation remains the essential part of any product safety compliance across EU. And today's session, we will help you understand how to navigate these requirements and, of course, prepare your business for the compliance. So I once again thank you for joining us today. I will be the moderator for this session, and we will, of course, introduce the speakers. So, hello again. Myself, Gagan Kumar. I work as Managing Director of REACHLaw India Private Limited. This is a wholly owned subsidiary of our parent company, REACHLaw Finland, based in Helsinki. And I've been working with REACH and REACH-like regulations since 2008, and I'm happy to share, including the experiences and how we can help companies navigate this CLP Article 45 related compliance today. And I also have a responsibility of assisting companies in their businesses, market access services. And with me, I think I'll now request Devanshu to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Devanshu Chawla. I'm also working at REACHLaw, and I'll be the speaker and presenter of technical contents of PCN today. And I'm working as a regulatory toxicologist, and I monitor chemical safety and chemical safety assessment related tasks for mixtures and individual substances, and also regarding tasks regarding the CLP compliance like poison center notifications, labeling, and hazardous communications. So thank you for coming in this webinar.
Thank you, and to save bandwidth, we will hide the videos and continue with the session. So just some practical advice about this webinar to make it interactive. Of course, we have received quite many questions at the time of registration, and we are covering this also in today's at the end of the webinar. But please use the chat function at GoToWebinar and send questions to us, and we will during the webinar provide answers to those questions. And we will also consider if there are some questions which are important for the participants. We will come back to you by email. And recording of this webinar will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to watch the contents if you miss certain at the end of the session. So what we wish to cover today is basically I will introduce our company, REACHLaw, and then my colleague Devanshu will talk about all the technical aspects of this webinar, starting from the overview of poison center notifications, what it contains, and also covering the regulatory framework, what has been in past and now what we are looking at, including the timelines. And then we will also discuss the key compliance requirements, which of course starts from your information requirement scheme, and then how we proceed with the UFI. Of course, there are a lot of non-EU entities who would like to understand how they contribute to this good cause. And then we will talk about the notification process, the process in general, and how you maintain the dossier up to date. So whether it's any kind of dossier which has a meaning, and it means it needs an update also to solve its objective. So then we will look at the preparations as we will also cover that what's coming in early next year. So we will talk about the preparation on the inspections, and of course we'll share our experience, the practical tips, how businesses can prepare themselves for this compliance, and then we will have a Q&A session. So I request that probably this session will go beyond 60 minutes, so please be patient with us, and I'm sure that those who stays will get more information and answers to the questions. So please bear with us today. So let me start with the company REACHLaw, and so as a company we are focusing mainly on REACH and REACH-like regulations, and including all kind of notifications which is pertaining to this webinar. And this is how we are placed. We are based out of Helsinki, which is our head office, and then we are also present in UK at Manchester. Then we have set up in Brussels, and we are also offering services, which of course similar arrangement on REACH is also in Turkey, having office in Istanbul. We are based out of New Delhi, and we are providing also services for the regulatory and product regulations to help companies to access India market, where we are based out of. And then we are also having set up in Seoul, South Korea for K-REACH. And recently we are also operating from Ukraine for Ukraine REACH in Kiev. So this is how we are placed, supporting companies in getting access to the market in these countries where they are looking for registrations and notifications. And as a company, we are now present in 7 countries, as you have seen in the previous slide, and we are more than 50 plus professionals coming from different background, and the team, of course, responsible for managing advice as well as notifications or any kind of submissions, regulatory submissions and post submissions management. All kind of expertise that is required is what we provide in-house, be it business, legal, and all kind of technical elements that goes with these kind of regulations. And then we also work with different partners to assist companies if they want to place and get access to the other markets using our partners in these locations. And fairly good experience on the product side, as we support companies now with other regulations, product regulations. So this is all including this notifications. So that means that we have been fairly good exposure to the product segment, how companies are working, and this is exactly helping us to guide them from the experience. And for more information, I would request to please visit our website and also subscribe to our newsletters and these kind of notifications where we run the events. So this is briefly about us. And coming to the services, we as we are into market access, so we help companies in managing their chemical regulatory compliances. And this is where we add value, is by helping them with legal representation, is like only representative to access market, and then going with the notifications and registrations to at least have their submissions, taking care of all submissions in these markets, and then high-end advice on authorization, advocacy, and supporting companies also with classifications. And circular economy services is also we provide companies to support them with their sustainability index. And then we are also providing trainings to support companies to navigate and support their infrastructure to navigate these regulations. So this is what we offer as a company. And on EU PCN, we have we've been handling this task that we will cover today, but our main aim is also to support companies to support them with the PCN compliances, is starting with the consultation in the role in the supply chain, which is, I think, starting point, as you will see in the slides that we will cover. And then we will of course, help companies with data checklist preparations and how they can collect this information in the supply chain. This is also important. Preparing your dossiers, submitting them, maintaining them, and for non-new entities, we also have commercial representative service using our entity in EU. We also provide support for generation and advice on UFI and its management. And then a lot of information and the quality of the dossier is belongs to your classification, how you have derived your classification. As CLP regulation is also getting updated, and you have seen that new hazards class has been adopted, and there are more changes coming up. So that is where it's important to have right classification when you handle these notifications. And then safety data sheet authoring is a part of because it covers the document in the supply chain. And if you rely on information, then it's important that this is done correctly again. Emergency support, local emergency support is something we also offer. Then raw material compliance and communication. If you handle a lot of raw materials for your formulations, hazardous formulations, and you need support, then this is also we cover. And then of course training is one of our service that we offer to the businesses. So with this, I will also highlight that we have a YouTube channel. You will of course have this webinar and all other webinars which REACHLaw is and it's a quite good inventory for us to assist companies. Please feel free to log in and access to these webinars, and if you like, also subscribe. So before I start the session, I will also quickly go over the disclaimer and copyright notice. And this is just to mention that this material is of course prepared by REACHLaw, and most of the information is gathered from the known and reliable sources. But still, please use it at your own risk. And this we have done and in the best efforts to help companies to navigate these. But REACHLaw or its affiliates accept no liability or any consequences arising from its use. And also the content of this presentation, including all text graphics, are intellectual property of REACHLaw. And please obtain our permission, written permission to use them for, or if you want to follow this content. So with this, I will pass on the floor to Devanshu, and I think this will help you understand more about this subject. Over to you, Devanshu.
Thank you, Gagan. And I again welcome everyone to this webinar. And from this slide, we would be discussing some technical aspects of this regulation, which everyone knows with the word poison center notification. It is actually Article 45 CLP Annexure 8. And yes, this regulation is well drafted. This article is well drafted, and it covers various technical aspects, and it is well drafted in terms of it covers detailed explanation on what informations are required to meet compliance for the supplier, and also confidentiality, business confidentiality issues, and also it also covers different kind of supply chain scenarios, which are, I think, complex and can vary from company to company based on their supply chain arrangements. So overall, this is a well drafted article and well drafted regulation, and has came into force a couple of years back, and everyone knows that deadline is already in transitional phase, and companies has to comply with this. So yes, we will try to cover as much as possible and relevant and important technical content of this regulation, but keeping in mind it is a 60-minute window we have. If anything we miss, which is specific to your supply chain scenario, we are very much happy to assist you and to accommodate your queries separately. You can always contact us. So yes, maybe next slide. Yes. So this is a PCN definition in a very simple terms for every company to understand what is PCN actually, what is this notification, and when to perform this notification. So when the word comes PCN, it self-defines that it is poison center notification, and a simple notification has to be performed by the companies who are actually placing hazardous mixtures in EU member state or EU 27, and this obligation comes into place when you are dealing with hazardous mixtures and when you are actually placing it into the EU 27. So these are the two basic keywords which you can keep on your desk when you think about your obligation of PCN. You just think about if you are dealing with hazardous mixtures and if you are directly or indirectly placing it into the EU 27. And as per recommendation, at least 48 hours before placing it into the EU 27, you should send notification. You should complete your poison center notification in that actual EU member state. So basically, this notification is just a simple activity, uh, which means you need to send some set of information to the appointed bodies in the EU member state, which are poison centers. So this activity of sending a certain set of information to poison centers is actually a notification. So in very simple terms, you can remember that if you are dealing with hazardous mixtures, and if you are placing those hazardous mixtures into the EU 27, you need to perform poison center notifications. Also, for the hazardous mixtures, you need to keep in mind that only physical hazard and health hazard are applicable and fall under this obligation. Environmental hazard are not falling under this poison center notification obligation. I have mentioned it into the infograph. You can see the codes which starts with H3XX, H3 codes, and H2XS. If the hazardous classification is starting from or similar to these codes, it means this qualifies for the poison center notification, and you have obligation, and you need to determine and assess your supply chain and the obligation if you need to do the PCN. So yes, next slide, please. So this is PCN purpose. So we know that in Europe, Europe is very stringent about all the regulations, be it general product safety law, be it all the regulations pertaining to the specific product portfolios, to the substance level, and also to the chemicals. CLP is also the one which you know deals with the safe monitoring, and the safe monitoring of the chemicals, and hazardous communication should be very clear. And every chemical regulation has the major main one role and one purpose, that is to uh, manage the risk of the chemical, and the chemicals in the mixture form and as such individually should be used safely. And this PCN regulation also has a specific purpose, that in case of any unintentional exposure if happened to the hazardous mixture by the user, then a right emergency treatment should be in place for the user or for the affected person. So this is the very specific purpose of PCN. If any deviation from the use directions of mixture or of a product containing hazardous mixture is happened and the right emergency treatment is needed, this should be in the place. So to channelize this right emergency treatment, PCN is in place. Next point. So I would utilize this infograph to explain further. So let's see, in case if any person who has who is affected by the unintentional exposure is coming to the medical staff or has called up to the emergency responder in poison center notification, poison centers or appointed bodies. This emergency right treatment can only happen if poison center notification is happened and the right set of information is sent to the poison center bodies. So what happen is, as per this poison center notification, what is assumed that the medical staff or emergency responders in Europe, they know that if any such case happened, they know that it falls under PCN obligations, and they ask for product label or picture in which they refer to one alphanumeric code, which is UFI. I would be covering UFI specifically in later slides, but you can just keep it in mind as of now that one alphanumeric code is present on the product, which medical staff or emergency responder will ask, and they will give this code to the appointed bodies or poison centers, and poison centers can track every information which is required for the right treatment or immediate treatment they can track the right information with the help of UFI, because this UFI is actually linked with the set of information companies are sending to the poison centers. So through this UFI code, medical staff or emergency responder can retrieve right information, which is useful for the right treatment of the affected person. And this is how this channel works. And this channel can only work if companies like all the companies who are dealing with hazardous mixtures, they send on a timely manner this set of information to poison center. Otherwise this channel will get disrupted, and the complete channel will get disrupted. So it is very important to keep a note that the companies who are dealing with hazardous mixtures or placing these mixtures in Europe will send timely notifications so that this channel will be live and active. Next point. Okay, so let's come to the next slide, which is a PCN regulatory framework and history. So this has a very old history in Europe. Poison center bodies and poison center notification. It's not new, as you know. As you know that amendments are always have a place, important role in the regulations. In future, there would also be amendments in the regulations. So this is PCN Annex VIII is also such kind of amendment in the CLP regulation. So if we go back in past before 2000 also, it is to be noted that these poison center information collecting system was in place already, and poison center were also collecting certain set of information from companies to meet compliance and to treat treat in a rightly manner all the poisoning cases. So this system was in place, and in 2009 it was actually incorporated as Article 45 into CLP, and it was enforced. But what happened was different member state had flexibility to adopt this process as per their own will. So different member states and different member states and poison centers bodies had their own process, own requirements. Some had fees included in their process. Some did not had any kind of fees. They did not they were not charging. Local languages requirement were also varying, and also set of informations were also varying. In few member states there was a system in which you can only send SDS and the PCN is completed, but some member states were found to be very stringent. They required a whole lot of data, set of information, very detailed information of the mixture, and they developed their own portal as well. So one company has to generate multiple set of information for different member states, and has to meet different kind of requirements, set of information for different member states. But in 2017 it was realized that it should be harmonized, and it was adopted as Annexure 8 under Article 45 CLP. So Annexure 8 is a harmonized set of data or set of information which is now applicable to all member states. So if from 2017 onwards, if a company is dealing with hazardous mixture and placing these mixtures in Europe, and they have to comply with PCN, they are now this relaxation of providing similar data, one harmonized set of information to different kind of EU member state appointed poison centers, but no different data. So this concept was harmonized, and different member states were collecting same information. Although adoption of this PCN obligation Annexure 8 was in place, and different member states were keep on reviewing the status if the and working on their process to accept this harmonized set of information. I will also discuss the current status of all the member states who all are accepting this Annexure 8 harmonized format. If anyone is not, what is that appointed poison center body, I will discuss in later slides. So after 2020 there were a couple of amendments happened in Annexure 8 as well. Amendments were there to make it more stringent and to make it more comprehensive, to meet the right purpose of the PCN, and the deadline started for the companies to notify for different kind of mixtures, which basically dependent on the end users and the product categories. If it is professional, if it is industrial, if it is consumer. There were different kind of deadlines. But yes, we are still right now lying in the transition phase. Still, there is a small window of couple of months, I think 2 months left for this PCN to be fully enforced. And this first Gen 2025 deadline is approaching very fast, where companies has to see and analyze their supply chain arrangements, their mixtures portfolios, and their business as well. And they should ensure that the compliance before this deadline should be in place. And this is a small picture. I think this is a news from the ECA, 1st October 2024. You can see ECA is very active on their LinkedIn page, even on the newsletters, and they are circulating it very frequently that this transition deadline is approaching fast, and they are urging companies to come forward and comply. Okay, next slide. Yes. So this is the current status of member states, which I was talking in previous slides, that member states were reviewing the Annex VIII harmonized format, and they were setting up the process to adopt this harmonized process for PCN obligation. And different kind of statuses were coming across the companies in different years, but this is the current one from September 2024. So there are different parameters and different parameters on which on basis of which we can determine what is the status. So in first row you can see the member state still not connected with the ECA submission portal, and who is not accepting the notification in the harmonized format. And Bulgaria is the only one which is as per the overview member state decision file which ECA rolls out. As per that file, we have this information that Bulgaria is still not accepting notification, but they are keen on keeping themselves to the national system and national requirements. But it seems like it is underway from their website. It seems they are mentioning Article 45 CLP. They are thinking to you know updating their national system as per the harmonized format. But yes, they also mentioned that it is a temporary format. The national format system is the temporary format. And yes, meanwhile we can follow this temporary notification system, which is as per their national requirements. And we can wait till this at Article 45 they will enforce. And the next one is the accepting notification through ECA submission portal. As I said, that after adoption of the Annex VIII, member states were setting up the process how they will receive the notifications. So they had an option either to connect with the ECA submission portal, or maybe stick to their national systems. And also they had an option if they want to stick to the both the system, national system as well, and to the harmonized system. One classic example is Latvia. From their website also you can see that they say that it means in order to legally place chemicals on Latvia's market, they should comply with the national information as well, and send notification to the ECA via ECA submission portal as well. And also this information is for Belgian Poison Center. They are accepting via both system, ECA submission portal and the national system as well. And yes, for the conveniency of the companies, if they are only placing mixtures to the Belgian market, then they can use the Belgian Poison Center national system. And if the company is definitely placing mixture in EU 27 or multiple countries under EU 27, then definitely ECA submission portal is more relevant, because from that all the poison centers are connected. So yes, there is also a parameter for local languages. So all these mentioned member states, Austria, Bulgaria, and so on, these member states are accepting English and as well. And in one local language, you have to provide submission. So at least one local language in all the EU member state applicable, you have to perform submission and provide data. So next slide. So notification fee, we also had questions from a few companies that if these member states are waiving fees, or if we have any information. But yes, you can note that this Belgium, Hungary, and Italy, they have a fee system as well. You have to pay some amount of fee for your PCN notification. For an example, in Italy, they charge some fee for the maintenance and maintenance database maintenance for all the products which you are sending as a poison center obligation, and this is annually, and it is independent of the number of mixtures. And yes, when you submit poison center notification via relevant tools, you will receive some statuses, and in those status as well, there is one status that the notification is received by the poison centers. So this status is important when you are placing mixture or submitting information for Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, and Luxembourg and Spain. Once you see this status in your submission proof that it is received, then only you can place the mixture in these mentioned particular member states or countries. So if you're submitting for these member state countries, just keep in mind that in your submission proof, you always check if it is received by the appointed bodies and or poison centers. Next slide. Okay. So the question is, who needs to comply? And I think this PCN regulation is well drafted, as I said. The detailed information, set of information, ECA guidance document is beautifully presenting all the set of information, which is very clear and transparent to understand. But I think the main complex, challenging thing in every regulation is supply chain scenario. So this is very much important for every company to first understand where they stand in supply chain, what is their role, and as per their role, if they have a real-time obligation, directly or indirectly. This is to be understood very briefly. So this is a small kind of a decision tree, which we can see on the screen, that it starts with the hazardous mixtures. So companies who are dealing with the hazardous mixtures, which are classified again as 3XX code, as 2XX code, a human health hazard, and physical hazard. So if you are dealing it with these kind of hazardous mixture, so there can be further two scenarios. One is that you are a EU-based entity, and one is that a non-EU based entity. Non-EU based entity I will separately discuss in full detail. But yes, so if you are an EU-based entity, then you can determine your exact role in the supply chain. If you are importer, formulator, if you are doing any activity related to repackaging, refilling, or if you are distributor, rebranding or relabeling, these kind of activities and role you have to determine. So yes, importer has direct obligation. EU entity who is importing hazardous mixtures and placing it into the EU has direct obligation. They cannot escape from the obligation. There is no derogation. You have to comply with the PCN following the deadline. Same for the formulator. So if activity which is formulating certain mixture, if they are formulating it and performing this activity, definitely there is a direct obligation and you cannot escape from the deadline. There is no derogation. Similarly, for the downstream user who is performing repackaging and refilling, so it is there is an obligation to perform and comply with PCN when they are performing repacking or refilling by transferring the mixture from one container to other container. If they are performing this activity, they also have obligation. And yes, distributor as well, possibly they have obligation, although distributor is a complex case, identified as a complex case by the authorities as well, and they are also discussing, and we can expect more clarity on the distributor role, because distributor is having no direct obligation. They are non-duty holders, but depending on the supply chain scenarios, depending on other scenarios, if they fall under, they possibly be having some kind of obligations. But yes, the main duty for all the distributors in Europe falls under Article 410, which actually urges all the distributor to make sure that they comply with the CLP regulation when labeling the product, and while supplying the SDS, maybe clear communications of the hazardous properties as per the CLP should be in place. This is definitely one of the main obligation of distributor. And yes, rebranding as well. If the trade name, if any distributor who is rebranding the product, and if the trade name with which he is rebranding the mixture, if it was not included in the original submission performed by upstream user, in case any, if it was not included, so based on their business arrangement and the supply chain scenarios, they can maybe ask their upstream user to incorporate their trade name and their details as well. And if not, they have to maybe have to perform their own submission themselves. And yes, for relabeling as well, if any kind of data in original submission performed by upstream user was not in place, then they have to maybe request their upstream user to include that data, or maybe have to perform this poison center notification including their data by themselves. And this is also this case applicable for distributor as well. So this scenarios, this arrangement can be complex for supply chain, depending on the number of downstream users, depending on the number of upstream users. Maybe formulators is included, or some distributors are included. You have to get clarity and have clear, transparent communications with your upstream user and downstream user to assess if your information is included or not, if you have obligation and or not. And based on that, you can take right decision if you really have to perform any kind of PCN notification. So I would really advise every company to first assess their supply chain and their role, and get clarity on that, and then decide on the further steps. And yes, then there is a non-EU based entity. So non-EU entity, because it's not in EU territory, definitely there is no obligation under any kind of EU law. They are non-obliged. They do not have any kind of direct obligation to comply with the EU PCN. But to maintain the business continuity for them, they may have indirect obligation to perform a voluntary submission for their downstream user, or the EU, their business partner who can be a EU importer. For them to fulfill the PCN obligation, they may have to perform voluntary submission. What is voluntary submission, and how this channel is active, and how this channel works between non-EU entity and EU entity, I will discuss in full description and more detail in the later slides. Next slide. Yes. So now I think most of the participants would be able to understand that they have to assess their role in the supply chain. They now know that what is PCN in simple terms, what definition it carries. They now know that hazardous mixtures starting with the H3XX codes and H2XX codes are falling under Article 45 CLP obligation. And the some mixtures I have not mentioned. Definitely, you participants will be having questions that if those are exempted or if it is covered. So yes, now it's time to understand the mixtures under scope. So as per definition, the mixture or solution is which is composed of two or more substances. So if it is a mixture, then only there is an obligation. If you are dealing with any kind of hazardous substances, I saw that there are few questions as well regarding the substances. If you are dealing with any kind of substance, as per definition, there is no obligation to perform any kind of PCN, and there is no obligation under Article 45 CLP, only with the mixtures and those which are hazardous. So yes, as per CLP classification, now you understand that H2XX, physical hazard and health hazard, falls under this obligation. These are some pictograms as a reference example you might be having on your label product, and your product also would be might be classified under these pictograms. So if you are seeing these kind of pictograms on your product mixture, on your SDS, on your label as well, then you definitely need to comply with the PCN as soon as possible, keeping in mind that the small window is left for the transitional deadline. And yes, as I said, that exempted mixtures are also present. As an example, environmental hazardous, if your product is only classified for environmental hazardous, but there is no physical or health hazard is present, then you are actually technically exempted from the PCN notification. But if you see that you want to contribute in a safer cause, then you can definitely come forward and perform a voluntary notification. And companies, we have also seen that they also do, for a safer cause, voluntary notification for their mixtures which is not classified or maybe environmental classified, in case any unintentional exposure which they have not assessed for their mixture can happen, and which lead to some risk. So to minimize that, they also send voluntary notifications as well. So these are some most commonly finished product categories on which you can expect seeing UFI code, which is linked to the poison center notification. I will discuss this in more detail in coming slides. But yes, these are some consumer and industrial products: adhesive, air care products, household consumer products from biocides, detergents, and paint and coatings, and inks as well. On these all the products, you can expect that these products would require PCN notification, and could be classified as hazardous. Next slide. So these are some exempted mixtures you can see on the screen. Scientific research and development, having small scale samples, these are definitely exempted. And uh, process oriented research and developmental mixtures, development mixtures, also these categories also exempted. And few hazardous classification, for which gases under pressure and explosives, they are also exempted from the notification. And radioactive substances and mixtures, and mixture subject to custom supervision, and non-isolated intermediates, and the product categories which are very stringently regulated in other product regulations, like medical device, cosmetic, medicinal products, where the safety of the substance at ingredient level and at product level is very well regulated. These kind of finished product categories are also excluded, like food and feeding stuff. But thing to be noted here for food and feeding stuffs, that if you are dealing with any kind of food flavorings which is to be used in a e-cigarettes products, these are not exempted, and you need to comply with the PCN obligation, and the obligation still lies with you. Also, the bespoke paints, these are also exempted, but yes, it has to be keep in mind that only when this scenario is met, that these are formulated and supplied immediately following a direct request by the customer, which could be a professional user or consumer, then only they are exempted and should be supplied in a limited amount. So if this scenario is matched for you, you have no obligation. Otherwise, you need to assess again as per the regulatory text provided by the regulation. And polymers as well, they are considered to be substances. They are also not obliged to perform PCN. They are also exempted. Article 45 obligation does not apply to the polymer itself. But yes, if your polymer is mixed in a mixture, it is present as a raw material component in a whole mixture which is hazardous. Let's say an example of a resin, then definitely this resin mixture has to be notified to the poison centers. And if you are only supplying polymer, then if you have to give certain set of information, maybe to your downstream user, who could be a formulator who is using a polymer into their final mixture product, which needs PCN. But yes, as such, no obligation on polymers itself. If you are only dealing with the polymer as a substance, supplying polymer as a substance, you don't need to perform any kind of PCN, poison center notification. So yes, next slide. So yes, this is the slide for the timeline compliance. At what timeline is provided by the authority for the companies to comply the PCN notification. So I have kept only 4 bars as of now. That is year 2000, year 2021, and 2024 and 2025. So yes. Uh, mhm. You can see this 2020 was a preparatory phase for deadline compliance and submission. Everything was in preparatory phase, and deadline was arrived as a news, and companies got to know that yes, they have to comply with the PCN notification following some deadline. And if we go on the 2021, 1st Jan 2021, the transition actually ended for the mixtures which were for the consumer and professional users. There were different deadlines previously notified for consumer and professional, but later on they merged both together for 2021 and before 1st January 2021. If your mixture was present already in the market, then you only need to comply with this deadline. Otherwise, there was no obligation. So yes, after 2021 1st Jan, mandatory notification for all newly consumer professional users products. If you are supplying any product as a new stock, if you are keeping placing a new stock of your product in a market which is responsible for professional users and consumer, then this is a mandatory notification required as per Annex VIII. Then the next one is 2024. Uh, Here for 1st Jan 2024, the transition actually ends for the new industrial use mixture. So from 1st Jan 2024, if you are placing a new stock for your mixture for industrial user, then there is a mandatory compliance. And if there was a livestock already present before 1st Jan 2024, then you have to again resend data, but in a harmonized format to all the poison centers in which you are placing the product. So next is 2025. So it is approaching very fast. The transition, you can see from the consumer professional to industrial user, this whole transition is actually going to end at 1st Jan 2025. So from 2025, 1st Jan 2025 onwards, there is a mandatory notification required for all the product categories, irrespective of their end users category, be it professional, consumer, industrial. You have to comply with this Annex VIII, and you need to comply with this Annex VIII requirements. So if any national notified, if you are dealing with any national notified product category, so from 2025 onwards, you need to comply with this harmonized format. So now you understand this all the deadlines, and we know that this is a very small window which we are left with. It's almost 2 months is left to comply. So we are done with the consumer, we are done with the professional, we are done with the industrial deadline. Now nationally notified mixtures which were already notified to the national via the national systems to the local poison center bodies, they are now need to be notified in a harmonized format before 1st Jan 2025, and definitely there is an inspection going or will be running by the ECA for 6 months. 6 months. This would be a pilot project. I would also cover this news in the later slides at the end of presentation. So this 6-month inspection from ECA side will be in active mode. Will run in active mode for all the companies, where you can note that these are few of the key highlighted agendas of this inspection, that they will verify the labels and UFI, etc. If your product is hazardous, if label is showing that the product is hazardous, and if it is not having UFI, that definitely there is a non-compliance, or maybe you have missed printing it on the label, or maybe it is a non-compliance. Also the dossier quality, it means the set of information companies had sent to the poison centers. Also the SDS, we are required to keep to check the information from the SDS, and also few more points. Exact scope can definitely we can expect. Maybe ECA will roll out some more key points, which would be the agenda of the inspection. And a very important thing to note, that the information you are submitting in the PCN, it is same in your label and SDS, because those are the two hazardous communication document, where you keep a CLP classification. In SDS you keep more information like toxicological properties and physical specifications. These information would be same in the PCN. Hence it is very important for companies to see all the three, but not the PCN. So next slide. Yes, now we will jump to key compliance requirements. What are the requirements for the companies as a set of information? But before going to the key compliance requirement and information requirement, there is one key check which you need to keep in place, that is end use. So what is end use? So end use means the very last use of your mixture before it actually dies or it goes into the waste streams. It is also mentioned as last step before the end of life of the mixture, or when it is incorporated in another mixture until it reaches its end of life. So this slide is very important for every company to understand their end use, because if you are performing PCN and if the right end use you are not covering, then there could be a non-compliance. So please focus on this infograph. I would utilize this infograph to explain the end use. So let's say this is a supplier one who is supplying its mixture as a raw material component to supplier 2, who would be utilizing this raw material mixture coming from supplier 1 and mix it in another mixture and reformulate a particular mixture. And this supplier 2 is supplying this mixture at industrial this supplier 2 is doing this activity at industrial site. However, he is supplying the final mixture to the consumer and professional. So in this case, there is a lot more confusion I have seen with among the companies and among the people who are handling PCN, that they do poison center notifications assuming that they are only supplying it to the industrial end user, and the end use is industrial. But this is not true. The end use, as per the definition last step, it is actually professional, consumer, and industrial, all three. So as the last use of the mixture is going to be through professional and consumer people, supplier one notification should also cover professional and consumer in their notification. So yes, you can see these boxes. Supplier one PCN should also cover original mixture, industrial and consumer and professional use as per the definition that end users should be covered. Also supplier two, if the trade name is different, if he is reformulating it and giving it yes, because it's a new composition, he is reformulating it, he also has to perform again poison center notification for their finished product or their mixture they are providing to the professional consumer. And also if supplier one is formulating supplying this raw material mixture which he is supplying to the supplier two under any trade name to the direct consumer or professional category, he also again has to perform the PCN. So depending on how you are placing your product into the EU member states, to what end users, to what under what product names, if you are changing composition, if you are changing any details, the updates or the obligations varies, and you need to assess as per the regulatory text available. So yes, for supplier 2, it's definitely mixture in mixture case because he is taking a mixture. This is also a common terminology you will be coming across in the PCN. This is a mixture in mixture case. So yes, next slide. So yes, this is highly encouraged that if upstream formulators and downstream users also the whole supply chain to the possible extent they should communicate with each other to assess if anyone has performed PCN notification or what kind of details were covered in their original submission, if they were covering their own details, and if they have to perform their own themselves the poison center notifications. Also similar case arise for the MIM. MIM stands for mixture and mixture. So you can see while upstream formulators may not have a complete and detailed overview of the final mixture in which their original mixture has been incorporated, they often do have a very general knowledge that what is the end use. So they should definitely determine the end use of the mixture and mixture, and this case is applicable to the supplier one. In the previous slide infograph, that supplier one should make best efforts to retrieve this information from supplier two, where he is going to use their mixture as a mixture in mixture case for which end use, so that supplier one can cover all those uses. And this is the basic information I think in supply chain can be communicated very easily, and in case of any uncertainty, best efforts should be in place to gather such information. Yes, so this is one example. Maybe supplier one is supplying one fragrance mixture, which is going to be used in a detergent formulation, which is going to be again supplied to consumer and professional. Then this fragrance formulator should also cover consumer and professional in their PCN. Yes, next slide, please. So this is also a submission and notification type. You need to assess which kind of notification type and submission type is applicable to your mixture. If so, first is the standard submission. So this is a default setting in the tool for preparing dossier. If you do not select any kind of notification type, the template would be a standard template which will ask you to provide all the necessary details, but no details will be exempted. So full composition required and full details of the product are required. Then the second scenario is limited submission. This is only applicable for industrial use only, and behind this reason, why it is limited is that there is an exemption and derogation for the companies. Then they can rather providing full composition in the notification set of information, they can only stick to the Section 3 SDS components, which companies and participants would be aware that Section 3 components are basically hazardous components under mixtures, which are fulfilling the criteria for the mixture to classify for the same classifications. So this is limited submission, and why it is kept applicable for industrial use only, but no use other use, only industrial use, because it is assumed that the industrial people have more information on the product safety side, and if Section 3 components could be provided, then also safety measures would be in place. Then also there are the group submissions. If you are handling a big portfolio of different similar products which have very much similar compositions, but yes, the composition only varies very minutely in terms of perfume, in terms of colorants, then this could be applicable for you. You can, in one dossier, you can submit multiple products under one dossier and perform it as a group submission, and keeping it in mind that all the mixtures should have same classification. And yes, this is voluntary. In case of exempted mixtures, as we have seen in previous slides, that exempted mixtures, for voluntary exempted mixtures were present. One example was environmental hazardous mixtures, hazard classified mixtures. If you are dealing with those mixtures, then you can also perform voluntary submission. And also, in case you are a non-EU entity and you are falling under this scenario, and the EU importer is asking you some information, then also you can perform one voluntary submission. I will cover in next slides. Next slide. So yes, this is also notification types. Initial notification is when the first time notification is performed for a mixture, and updates is when you perform a change in your product specifications and in classifications maybe, but not in composition. This thing is to be noted, that no update is performed or change is performed in the composition. Then you can perform update, a simple update, where the advantage is that UFI remains same, and the UFI, if you have communicated in your downstream supply chain, would remain same, and there would be no reiteration in the communication or reiteration in the UFI would be required. But yes, sometimes we see that addition or deletion or substitutions or changing concentrations of components beyond the concentration which was previously or originally declared in the PCN notifications are required. If this scenario is applicable for you, then this is treated as a new significant change. This is a significant change because, as we see, that PCN notification is applicable to mixtures. It is a mixture centric regulation, and when you change the composition beyond, when you change the composition significantly for any kind of mixture, this would be technically treated as a new mixture. Hence, this would be treated as a new significant change. Although this is technically this is an update, but because the mixture identity is changed, you have to perform a new significant change. And the only thing you should keep in mind is that new UFI, unique formula identifier code, is required, and you need to re-communicate this UFI into the supply chain, and new PCN number is also included. However, there is a flexibility for the companies that yes, for the previous applicable UFI, which was linked to the previous composition, was also might be active in the market, and the stock might be present in the market. So you have time to clear the stock. So just do not disable this notification, and just keep it alive till you clear out the stock of old composition, and you can keep both the UFIs and the poison center notification linked with both the UFIs alive, and you can disable the previous UFI once you clear all the stock in the market. So yes, with every update, definitely I am repeating this point because this leads to a major non-compliance, that you have to perform relevant updates in the SDS and this label as well. Wherever you are changing the composition, wherever you are changing the classification, updates in the SDS are also required. So yes, next slide. So this is a basic layout. What information is required? You can find out this layout at ECA guidance as well. But yes, I will cover in more brief set of information. So basic layout. This is a set of information which is required for poison center notifications. You definitely need to determine the end users, if and also the legal entity who is submitting the details. That would be called as a submitter, and mixture details are also required. That is CLP classifications, tox and pH. Most of the details can be recovered from the SDS, but yes, not full composition. If you are going to perform a full composition submission, then definitely you need to gather that data as well. But most of the detail can be gathered from the SDS, provided, again repeating, if your SDS is fully compliant to the EU REACH Annex II requirement and latest ATP versions, your raw material are compliant to latest ATP versions classifications, and you have correctly deduced the mixture classification. So use this SDS wisely and determine that if your SDS is correctly made or not before performing any kind of PCN or gathering data from your SDS. Then definitely unique formula code is also required, 16-digit alphanumeric code. I'm just repeating this word again and again so that every participant get familiarized to this terminology, so that when I'll discuss this in full brief, you will know that you face unique formula identifier. And yes, product level details, extra additional details, that is end user type, if you're supplying it to professional, industrial, consumer, packaging type, product category, system, EU PCS, and other physical specs are also required. So complete set of information is called as a harmonized format in Annex VIII. Yes, next slide. So this is a complete set of information. I would not spend much time, but yes, quickly we'll go through this. That this is a complete. This is how you will see the information in the Euclid tool when you will be preparing the set of information. You will be asked a dossier name. I prefer giving a trade name, then article number as well, and PCN for better identification of my product, what is being given. But yes, if you have a large portfolio and you are performing a group submission, you can change the name so that it could be easy for you to identify your dossier. Then PCN number, it is automatically generated. You have to generate, it will be, the tool will automatically generate, and it will be auto populated. And the submission type we have very well discussed, notification type we have very well discussed, and the countries and the active market in which all the EU member states in which you are going to place your product. Then emergency contact. So this is an additional obligation only for the limited submission industrial use. So let's say if you are performing, if your end use is industrial use and you opt for limited submission, as I discussed in previous slide, that only section 3 composition components you are providing in the details, then you need to provide this emergency contact 24/7 details of a person. You need to set up this emergency contact in all those EU member states, and those should be rapidly available in case of any unintentional exposure happened. The poison centers, bodies, and medical staff and emergency responders should have this 24/7 rapidly access contact available, who should be available and who should is proficient in speaking in local languages applicable in member states. So you have to provide this detail in limited submission. But I see that company also find challenges in setting up this 24/7 emergency contact. If you are not able to set this emergency contact, then you anyway have to uh, you are not exempted from this limited submission. Then this mixture name, what is the trade name? You mention it on your label, and the SDS you have to put it on the PCN notification. And other identifiers are also applicable in case you are placing your mixture under different names in different countries as per their local languages. Let's say you have an English name, but you are placing the same product in a France and in Belgium or in Spain market in their local languages. In French, Spanish, you have a local language name available as well. So you have a flexibility to provide that name as well in the submission as an other identifiers. And yes, legal entity. So this legal entity also is a submitter when you make a account, set up account, and on whom behalf you are submitting the information. This EU legal entity will be called as a submitter. And for non-EU entity, this commercial representative is a terminology applicable, which I'll be discussing in later slides for non-EU entity scenario. So next slide, please. So coming to the most important point in the set of information, which is mixture composition. So I see that the companies have multiple questions in FAQ for ECA as well, and on different pages as well, where ECA provides support regarding the composition, and because composition includes ranges as well, different ranges to define. So mixture of composition you need to provide in full if you are opting for the professional, consumer, or default standard submission. But yes, if in case of limited submission is applicable, you can only give section 3 SDS components. So you need to provide details of all the components present in your composition. The first is identity of substances. So it is encouraged that Annex VI CLP, if it is present in harmonized classification identifier as per that, you have to give, and see otherwise C&L inventory. If not present, then CAS number, IUPAC name, and IUPAC name, and then INCI nomenclature. And also there could be a scenario for mixture and mixture, as I described it utilizing one infograph, supplier 1, supplier 2, when I was discussing end use slide. Mixture and if this scenario is applicable for you, if you are procuring mixture and mixture, or if you are supplying mixture and mixture, then identity of all known substance for mixture and mixture should be provided. But yes, in some cases, if you are procuring mixture and mixture, if in some cases if you are procuring mixture as a raw material and reformulating it, then there would be a case that you might not be able to access to the whole composition of your mixture. Then it is encouraged that trade name and concentration of mixture and mixture in your final mixture, and UFI, and all the known components which you can retrieve easily from the section 3 of the SDS should be submitted. And in a worst case scenario, if there is no UFI present for the mixture, as I already described in my previous slide, that supplier 1 was supplying mixture as a raw material, which was treated as a mixture in mixture for supplier 2, then the supplier 1 can give full details of mixture and mixture. Otherwise, they can the supplier 1 can give the UFI. In worst case scenario, if supplier 1 is denied that he is not obliged, or he is not providing any kind of detail or UFI, then in this worst case scenario, the trade name, known components which are definitely coming from the SDS, and the name, email address, telephone number of the MIM, that is a mixture raw material supplier of a mixture as a raw material, must be indicated. So that is why it is encouraged and it is advised again and again that the communication within the supply chain between downstream users and upstream users are very much encouraged. You should wherever required, you should make efforts to make relevant communication for gathering details from your upstream users and from your downstream user where applicable as per your scenario. Then the concentration ranges. So when you are in a set of information for PCN, when you are declaring your components, you also need to define in what percentage it is present. So it is exact percentage. Also, PCN has provided a flexibility to all the companies that they can also provide this concentration in ranges and do not disclose the exact concentration. So concentration ranges are also applicable for your components, but this concentration ranges concept is not the same as the companies might be following in their SDS. They put ranges which are broad, very broad sometimes, and which are very precise. So ECA has and the PCN regulatory text has defined and allowed concentration ranges, which are basically dependent on the hazardous classes. So you can see on the screen for the hazardous class, if it is acute tox category 1 to 3 for all the routes, if it is classified or stored SCRE category 1 to skin corrosion category 1, I mean skin corrosion, and the eye damage, if any component is classified for this hazardous classification, then the box 1 is applicable for you. There are tighter concentration ranges applicable, shorter concentration ranges applicable. So let's suppose if you have a component which is classified as STOT SE category 1, and it is actually present in an exact concentration of 50%, then it is lying in the window of 25 to 100, then only 5% range and 5% width you can keep for a concentration range. Then for a 50 you can maybe keep it to 48 to 53, or and so on. So only 5% width is applicable. And if it is not hazardous, if it is not hazardous, or if it is hazardous but carrying classification apart from what mentioned for hazardous classes in brackets, then broader ranges are applicable: 20%, 10%, 3%, 1%, depending on what exact concentration window, what exact concentration is falling under what window. So next slide. Then there is a case of generic component identifier. This is also important to understand, because sometimes companies have variations. Sometimes companies have multiple and big portfolios of their products, and they only vary in colorants and perfumes. If this is the case with you, you can avoid giving multiple times multiple components, but you can only provide one entry, that is a generic component identifier, which can include all your variables, colorant and perfumes. So this is a category created for components exclusively to identify those components which are used to add perfumes or color to the mixture. This is the criteria, that it should not classify for any kind of health hazard. This is the first criteria. Then only you can include this as a group of components, under the group of components under one single entry, generic component identifier. The second one is total concentration of the sum of total concentration of perfumes component should not exceed 5%, and for colorants it is 25%, and concentration ranges should be provided as similar to the Annex VIII requirement, which we discussed in which we have seen in the previous slide. And the benefits of this GCI is that they can cover multiple perfume components if have same physical and environmental hazard, and several mixtures if only differ in terms of GPI can be grouped and group submission can perform. I will discuss this benefits with the help of this picture. So you can see this is a single submission case, single submission of a mixture, in which in a box left you can see there are components present, which are component A, component B, component C, and there are multiple perfumes present, and multiple perfumes present from 1 to 8. You can see only 1, 2 and 3 is not classified, then it is meeting criteria for the GCI components, and the sum is also not exceeding the 5% as the GCI criteria itself defines. You can combine all these components only in one single entry, that is GCI. So rather than selecting these three components in different products multiple times, you can only select only one entry, that is GCI. So it will reduce your efforts. Next slide. Now this is a case of a mixture. Now imagine if you have a 3 trade names for 3 mixtures, 3 products, that is shining blue, shining red and shiny green, which only varies in the composition of the colorants. You can see in the box left side that shining blue colorant 1 is present at 8% and colorant 3 is present at 10%. Shining red only colorant 2 is present as 21%, and shining green colorant 1 and 3 are present in 7% and 9% respectively, and none of the sum of the colorants are exceeding 25%. So in such case, because the component A, B and C are same for blue, red and green product trade names, you can combine all these 3 trade names, all these 3 products, shining blue, shining red and shining green, in one group submission, and you can rather than giving and submitting this colorants in different entries, you can club those into one GCI entry and you can select this GCI entry. So imagine if this GCI concept was not there, it was not possible to perform a group submission for all these 3 products, and the more efforts and more technical efforts would be required. So GCI definitely is helping a lot of companies who are dealing with such kind of product portfolios and scenarios. So yes, similar kind of thing is identified for the companies who are procuring the same raw material component from different suppliers to maintain their business continuity. So because they want to identify their different components under different trade names and different trade names from coming from different suppliers under different entries. So this was also identified because the composition and identical technical function of the substance is same. It can also be clubbed similar to GCI under different concept, which is called interchangeable component group. So there are different conditions that technical function should be same, and the classification for health and physical hazard and the toxicological properties should be same, and none of the component should influence the product mixture in terms of classification and labeling of the final mixture. This should also be the same. If this is the case, you can also opt for interchangeable component group. Next slide. Yes, so these are also few points. Classification, CLP classification for a mixture. If you're selecting from SDS or if you're deducing it separately, then UFI, 16 digit alphanumeric code, then product details as well, and this toxicological information, section 11 SDS. And for toxicological information, you should make efforts and keep track if any kind of new information is coming from for any kind of for your mixture, then it is highly encouraged that you update your PCN. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so yes, this is also a question we have seen from a few companies that they are keen on knowing about the section 1.4 emergency contact numbers for all the poison center bodies which they have to provide in SDS. So what I can provide you is the information that you can go on the poison center ECA page, and you can this highlighted yellow link. Click on this link and you will get a one PDF where the address of the different member states are given, and also the telephone numbers which you can provide in section 1.4. But yes, definitely you need to go on their websites and check if there is any separate obligation or separate requirement is present for the from the local member state. Example, Germany, they charge if you give their 24/7 emergency number, they charge for this service. You can you are not you are not supposed to provide this without giving this in knowledge of the Germany appointed body. So yes, you need to go and visit and check the exact requirements from their websites. Next slide. So finally, UFI, which we have encountered in multiple slides. So what is UFI? So I know companies. This is the first definition or first terminology from which companies get to know that there is a PCN obligation. So because they do not directly get to know about PCN, they only know that some kind of code is required, or supplier or maybe or EU importer or downstream user is asking us UFI. They will not ask, they are not asking any kind of notification, but they are asking UFI. So this is a very common word, I would say, which companies might be frequently encountering, that or downstream user or the company to whom we are supplying our mixtures, they are asking UFI. What is UFI? So UFI is a 16-digit alphanumeric code. It is a very unique code which tools generate. The tool which is UFI generator. This is present online and is free of cost. It generates a unique code which can be linked to your mixture. It basically identifies your mixture, your set of information which you are sending under PCN to the poison center bodies uniquely. So this code is very much important to fulfill this PCN requirement, and you can you would be seeing this UFI code most oftenly on the hazardous product label. So yes, you need to generate this UFI. You need to generate this UFI when you are submitting this mixture notification. Like this info picture, you can see there is a cleaning product. It is classified as irritant, and this UFI 16-digit code is present on the label. And yes, without UFI, there is a no PCN compliance, and there would be an inaccurate identification of product in emergency cases. hence no right treatment, and also delay in emergency response. So you can see at the in the very first slide where I mentioned that the medical staff or emergency responder will first ask on a priority basis if there is a code, UFI code present on your product label. In case of unintentional exposure happened, if there will be no UFI, then the whole channel of retrieving information for right treatment would get disrupted. And yes, hence this UFI plays a very important role in PCN notification. So next slide. So because it is playing a very important role in the notification, and it is in identifying your mixtures accurately, you have a duty to manage and understand this UFI. So management of UFI is very much required. So ECA has provided flexibility, regulation has provided flexibility in managing this UFI. So either you can assign this UFI per mixture. This is a mixture centric approach. So what you can do is, if you have a different kind of mixture composition, you can generate multiple UFIs and assign one UFI per mixture. So if you have a 5 mixtures, then you can generate 5 UFIs and assign those 5 UFIs to 5 mixtures. Then some companies say that we cannot generate, we have a multiple products which have a same mixture composition, but we are submitting it under a different product names. And then also you can generate UFI and assign it product wise. It means different kind of product names would carry different kind of UFIs. Sometimes companies want to keep this thing confidential. They are supplying same mixture composition but under different trade name to a single customer. To same customer, they sometimes they opt selling same mixture composition but under different trade name and different application or different application area to same customer, because their customer will know if you provide one UFI that all the mixture composition is same. You have this flexibility that you generate different UFIs for a different product names and you send it to your customer. This will keep the mixture composition confidential. And then there is a market oriented approach as well. If you are very keen on supplying your product to only one market, then you can also opt for this approach. Then you can assign UFI as per market. And yes, but this is not very much advisable, because product centric and mixture centric approach seems to be more appropriate for fulfilling the purpose of PCN. Next slide. Then the language and label oriented approaches are also present for the companies who are supplying to local member state who uses same language, maybe Dutch, maybe Spanish. So as per language also, you can also select UFI. And for group submission also, if you are sending a different kind of products under one single group submission, because the mixture composition is same, there are two options available to you. Either you can submit different UFIs for different products under one group submission. It means under one dossier. Otherwise, you can also send different UFIs for different products under one dossier. So both approaches are applicable. Either you can opt for one UFI for all the products in the dossier, or opt different UFIs, different products in the group submission. It is just similar to the approach we have seen in for the product. But yes, there is a flexibility for group submission because the mixture composition is same. You can link it to only one UFI. Then there is a MIM, mixture in mixture case. As we have seen that for mixture in mixture case, supplier 1 was supplying supplier 2 mixture as a raw material. So it is encouraged that supplier 2 should get whole component details, otherwise a UFI from the raw material mixture supplier. So mixture in mixture case also, a raw material mixture supplier can also provide UFI to the formulator, reformulator who is reformulating its mixture utilizing this mixture, and provide this UFI in the composition of the MIM in their original dossier set of information, so that the tracking of the whole components would be in place. So imagine if with this mixture there would be any unintentional exposure, poison center will see the dossier where the main UFI is UFI B, and through UFI B they will track the mixture composition, in which they will find that there is another UFI, that is UFI A is present. They will go to that UFI A and they will find that okay, UFI A is linked to a MIM, another mixture. Then they will track the whole components of the mixture. including mixture and mixture. So that is how UFI keep a track of the full notification, full ingredients of the mixture, and hence it plays a very important role in keeping the channel of the PCN and emergency response live. So next slide. So you can generate this UFI by using a formula number and a VAT number. So formula number, you can assign any numerical digit. Let's say you have 100 mixture and you are implementing a mixture centric approach. So you can implement this practice maybe that you assign accounting numbers from 0 or 1 to 100 to all the mixtures, and you can combine those numerical counting numbers with your VAT number, EU legal entity VAT number. Then the UFI generator will generate unique numbers which you can assign to your products where you have assigned the countings or a numerical number. So if you give a combination of 1 plus your VAT number, it will generate a UFI number. Then you can assign this UFI number to the mixture where you assign the counting number 1. So this is how you can generate UFIs, and you can also generate it into a batch where you are if you have a multiple mixtures in scope, maybe 50 or above than 50, you can also generate it in a batch. Next slide. So this is a snapshot of the EUFI generator. You can see on the left side, it is for a single substance. That the formulation number you can when put 1, 2, 3 or and so on, it will generate a unique identification number. And in the second snapshot, you can see that for a batch, if you are interested to generate multiple numbers for a batch of products, then you can provide first formulation number. That if you have 100 formulations for you which you want to generate UFI, you can put 1 in the first formulation number and 100 in count of formulation numbers. Then you would be having a CSV file copy of containing 100 UFIs which you can assign as per your counting number. Next slide. Definitely, because it keeps to keep the channel active for the PCN emergency responders, they ask this UFI number seeing the label of the product. You need to clearly print this UFI on your product label as well. So it should be clearly and visibly printed, and also it should be indelibly marked. And also you should use acronym UFI before you print this alphanumeric code. And yes, adapt existing design new labels for individual products as well. Yes, next slide. Yes, so non-EU entity scenario. So yes, this question is very important. If you are a foreign manufacturer, a non-EU entity, then your EU importer or a EU downstream user can ask you a UFI or a full mixture information, including full composition as well. So imagine if you are a non-EU entity and your EU importer will ask that they need a full composition. This question might sound very absurd and weird to you if you don't know this PCN obligation. So they will if you know this PCN obligation, then definitely this is very important to understand to meet obligation compliance for your EU importer. You should cooperate with your EU importer and downstream user, providing certain set of relevant information which they need to meet compliance for PCN. So this is how you have an indirect obligation. I would not say obligation. Obligation is a more stringent word, but you have a foundation, kind of foundation for to keep your business alive and to for maintaining your business continuity. You are bound to cooperate with your EU importer, providing a certain set of relevant informations. But yes, we totally understand that providing composition is very difficult to EU importer when there are provisions in PCN that the composition ranges of the components are also tighter. You cannot hide your components concentration as well. So one thing is that you can provide you are providing component identifiers, names, what all chemicals are present, and the other important thing is that you have to provide tighter ranges concentration ranges of your components to your EU importer. So that is very difficult, I understand, for a non-EU entity to disclose their mixture details. So considering this scenario, for a non-EU entity, PCN allows a voluntary submission. So, but yes, this thing you can keep in your mind. Sometimes we also have got queries from non-EU entities. They sound scared, they are afraid, because they imagine that they have a duty, they are a duty holder, and they have an obligation. The first thing is to note for all the EU entity participants in the webinar that there is no legal no legal foundation, no legal obligation. There is no duty for you to comply with the EU PCN as per the regulatory text. You are not obliged. You are a non-duty holder. Every duty and every requirement to comply and obligation lies with your EU-based downstream user, EU-based formulator, and EU-based importer. So EU importer is the actual duty holder, but not you. And there is a mandatory PCN to be in place with the by the EU importer, but not with you. So, but yes, because we have to overcome this requirement of providing a full composition to our EU importer so that this PCN obligation will be completed for their EU importer, there is a derogation or a channel, open channel, flexible channel, which regulation provide as a voluntary notification. So voluntary notification I will discuss in the next slide, but yes, it can help you to maintain confidentiality of your product information, mainly the composition. And doing voluntary notification, you can only provide UFI to your EU importer. So when your EU importer is asking for full mixture, then you can only then you can rather provide a full composition, or you provide a UFI. So UFI you can only provide when you generate one, and you will generate one when you will do a notification. So that's a voluntary notification concept. I will discuss in the next slide. So yes, so you can see in the first hexagon, you are a non-EU supplier, non-duty holder. How you can overcome this voluntary notification process is, first thing, because you are a non-EU entity, you are not obliged, you will be not identified in under any legal obligation. So you first should assign a legal entity established in EU, and this EU entity can represent your notification in front of the poison centers and in front of the authorities. And this representation is called commercial representation, and this representative is called commercial representative. So you can assign any EU based legal entity as your commercial representative. Then you can submit all the details required, just as we discussed in the set of information. You can submit all the details in one dossier and generate UFI1 and submit it. And once it is submitted, you can notify and communicate to the downstream user that you have performed a voluntary notification. And rather than composition details, you can note down this UFI and you can provide your UFI to your distributor, which can be utilized in their original notification. So this concept is very much similar what we have seen in the mixture and mixture case. If you remember that in mixture and mixture case, if mixture and mixture raw material supplier was denying giving full composition, he was allowed to provide UFI, which supplier 2 was including that UFI in their original submission. So this is the same case with you also. Rather than providing full composition, your EU based importer can provide full components X%, I mean A, B, and component C. And for the components which they have procured from you, he can only provide this UFI1, so that tracking of the whole components can happen from the poison center side, but not from your importer side. So once you communicate UFI via SDS, also it is voluntary. It is not mandatory requirement for SDS. It is voluntary that you can mention your SDS UFI in SDS section 1, or via email, whatever mode you prefer, to your downstream users, and they can utilize this UFI in their submission, and they can submit it into the composition section. And once they submit their own mandatory PCN notification, the obligation is complete. So this is the whole channel for a non-EU entity, how they can overcome this confidentiality issue for their composition, and this voluntary notification they can perform. Next slide. So this is a notification submission process. Basically, this is just a summary of everything which we have seen so far and which we have discussed so far in the webinar. Understanding mixture and scope, we now know that how companies need to assess and need to see what all mixtures are in scope and what are exempted. Then definitely end use categories and countries and supplier details as well. Non-EU entity, if you are a non-EU entity or if you are a duty holder, you need to assess your role in the supply chain. We have seen this decision tree. If you remember, we have to assess our role in the supply chain obligation. Then we have already seen the data checklist, Annex VIII set of information which are required for the PCN. Then we should understand mixtures and scope if there are main formulants and variants present, other identifiers are present, and we have to execute the submission by creating ECA account, and then we need to create Euclid dossier. We need to generate UFI for the mixtures. You need to manage your UFI, and then you need also before submitting, after submitting, preparing the dossier, and before submitting it to the poison center body. You need to validate it via the tool which you are using. If you are using ECA Euclid tool, or if you are using your if you are using a Euclid tool, then you have to keep this check in place that you validate your dossier, and all the validation checks should pass, because when you generate your submission proof, it will clearly mention in submission proof that this dossier has passed all the validation checks. So please keep in mind that you have to overcome all the errors which, if in case you encounter in Euclid, then you can submit and keep up submission proof and status of submission. If you remember, we have seen that for few countries there was a requirement that it should be received by the member states. After that only you can place your mixture in the market. So status of submission, you can also keep a note of it, and further actions, that is UFI labeling and providing UFI to a downstream user if you are falling under any scenario which we have discussed in our previous slides. Next slide. So these are updates and amendments, and yes, updates and amendments, there are you should perform updates if you are adding any new entry in your PCN, or making certain allowed changes, that is a new trade name if you are incorporating but not changing the previous trade name, and new UFI you are incorporating. Also, in case of a MIM, if your MIM, if a mixture and mixture case you are handling, and your raw material mixture supplier has provided a new UFI, then in your original submission you can change that UFI. This is the case. This screenshot is mentioning that the addition of new UFI and modification of any kind of CLP classification, new data pertaining to the toxicological or a physical specification, or packaging size, etc., mentioned in the set of information, and addition of any component in existing ICG, but not changing, deleting, or substituting any existing component, but addition only, and changing in emergency contact details, or addition of member states. And also what we have discussed for new significant change, that addition, substitution, deletion components, and supplier changing MIM UFI. Then you also need, because your composition is now changed, then you need to file this new significant change but not an update. So only difference between the updates and new significant change is majorly that advantage in the updates is that you can keep your existing UFI. You do not need to reiterate communication within your downstream supply chain. But in new significant change, there is a new UFI required, as we have discussed already in the previous slides. Yes, next slides. So now preparing for 2025 inspection. So as now we know our role or obligation and the mixture and scope, many participants present in the webinar might now already be assessing and evaluating if their mixtures are in scope and if they are obliged to perform PCN. So this is a scope for a pilot project on poison center notification, which is ECA going to run. And this has already been discussed in previous years, and Q4 2024 project manual was rolled out, and the operational phase is 1st January 2025 after that transition ends. So there could be a possibility that many companies even had not followed industrial and consumer and professional timelines which have been passed in 2024 and 2021, because there was no inspection. Hence, there is no identification of such scenarios. But if this is the case with you, that you have not complied even with the past deadlines of 2024, then inspection can in inspection there could be a non-compliance found at your site. So please ensure that before 1st January 2025 you assess your obligation and communicate in your upstream user with your within the supply chain if your details are already covered by the PCN, if submitted by any kind of actors in supply chain. If not, kindly follow this deadline and perform your duty. And yes, the next slides. So yes, this is some common pitfalls. This slide is very important. I know we are running beyond the time, and yes, but yes, I would like if everyone will focus on this slide, because this is a very important slide. We have encountered with many companies, and we have also seen that these are some important common pitfalls and common issues, hurdles that can lead to PCN non-compliance. So first one is uh, wrong classification, substance classification. I've encountered personally the SDSs that many components we handle for PCN notifications have older or wrong classification, which leads to the wrong mixture classification as well. So to check if your substance level classification match with ECA database is very important. And the next one is uh, substance identifier. Yes. And the next one, yes, wrong mixture classification, because at the substance level, if it is wrong, then mixture classification would also get affected. Sometimes names we have seen in mismatch in SDS and PCN, because in SDS there is different trade name, in PCN there is different trade name. Sometimes additional article number is included in SDS, putting it a underscore, or sometimes we have seen then in PCN notification some article number or something is included, maybe because SDS handler is different person, and the person who is performing PCN notification is different, or there could be different scenarios. So this is to be noted that informations should match in all the label SDS and other documents. And yes, older version of SDS also use for data collection, and for PCN you should keep your check on the SDS. And UFI, wrong UFI management, we have presented a slide that how you should manage your UFI. You should keep that in mind, your approach, mixture centric, product centric, etc. And sometimes we have also seen that SDS has new updated information, but you forgot to update PCN in case any change of product characteristics or composition or other information happen. Full end uses are not covered. That is very important. What we have already discussed in previous slides for end use. And yes, the last one is communication between supply chain. As I repeatedly mentioned in this webinar, that communication between the supply chain is very important to meet compliance and to understand your obligation. So next slide. So we would also encourage to keep documentation and record keeping as a good practice. You can also formula number which you are utilizing for UFI generation, just keep a record of that list so that they don't get used again, because otherwise there are chances that the same UFI as per the mixture centric approach, which should be assigned to one mixture, now is assigned again to another mixture. Now UFI generation approach applied also, which mixture centric approach, product centric approach, group submission, whatever approach you have followed, you should keep a track upon it. And submission proofs, please download all the submission proofs for your documentation and record keeping. SDS version, please keep an eye on the SDS version, if they are latest one, if they are old one, if the components contained in the section 3 are updated with respect to the classifications, also your mixture classifications. As SDS revision is very much required, and it is the most important thing for the companies handling PCN, because most of the details are coming out from the SDS. Also, concentration ranges provided in the dataset for components, you should follow the allowed concentration ranges. Next slide. Yes, mixture classification which you are submitting in dataset. So these are the some crisp points and key points which you can keep a note of. But definitely depending on your product, depending on your internal process, how you are handling PCN, there could be more, and you need to keep an eye on. keeping check on the regulatory text, what is allowed and what is not. So yes, we also would like to provide some practical tips for so that you would be in you would be in compliance with the PCN. That is, as I mentioned, that please keep up to date raw material components as per the latest ECA CLP classification, and if you have provided it in a REACH dossier, then as per that classification you have submitted, you comply with that while performing a PCN set of information. And accurate mixture classification, yes, as per CLP, and you should determine correctly. Yes, make best efforts with the supply chain to collect the relevant information. This is a practice, and details should match. So what my agenda for both the slides of this practical tips and the previous slides, you are seeing that the points are definitely some kind of similar points. Why? Because these are the most common crisp points where non-compliance can happen, and this should be in place with the every company handling the PCN. So before performing any kind of PCN notification, before preparing any kind of dossier, before gathering information from SDS, just keep an eye on the SDS, keep an eye on the raw materials and the information from where it is coming. But just don't pick it randomly and prepare a dossier and send it for PCN, because otherwise, in this scenario, in future you would stuck with unnecessary updates. So yes, UFI labeling guidance accurately you need to follow, because this is the, also an agenda in the ECA inspection, and follow closely if any updates required in notification to be compliant. Next slide. Yes, timely action. This is a tip for smooth compliance. You have a small window, 2-month window. However, it is not small if you assess your obligation correctly, if you able to pool and communicate within supply chain and able to pool relevant information quickly. This small window is not small, but definitely can overcome. We can overcome this timeline and perform timely submissions. Yes, assess your obligation as a duty holder, utilize this decision tree. Also determine your supply chain, what all supply chain arrangement you have for your product, and also you can assess for your mixtures quickly if these are under scope or are exempted, and perform accurately and timely submission to MS appointed bodies. Yes, ECA also roll out newses and updates for poison centers to keep and they are very much active in this activity, informing companies that they should timely update, to timely perform the PCN, and just you can also follow these updates. They can also help you in keep track of if any changes happened in requirements, if at also if any exact scope of inspection is going to come, and other updates as well. So you can also follow ECA Poison Center updates. So this is the Q&A session. I think we have tried to cover most of the topics which is important for every participant to be in compliance for PCN. And as we have received a few questions from the participants, and we really encouraged those questions, and Mr. Gagan would be having this Q&A session. So handing over to Gagan. Thank you.
Thank you, Devanshu, for a very comprehensive session, and I also thank all the participants sticking with us. I really appreciate your patience and hearing, and I hope this session was useful. So for Q&A, what we have done is, and I will respect the time, we have consolidated all the questions that we have received at the time of registration, and some of the questions we have providing answers to you already now. And we have also received, so these are some common questions, and these are some of the questions that we have received via chat today. Most of the questions you will find answers. So I will go through them because it's important. All the questions we have received are very good questions. Thank you for sharing your concerns with us. I think it is also for the audience. These answers are important. But as mentioned, that these answers are coming from our own experience and material that is reliable. But still, there are there are areas there we feel that the specific advice that you seek, we would request you to contact REACHLaw. directly. And for the questions where you will not find answers, we will contact participants that also we have already, our team has already identified, and we will come back to you directly. So starting with the questions, and I would request Devanshi if he wants to add something, then feel free. So this is one of the question which says that the polymers needs to be notified under PCN. So polymers we have covered are treated as substance. And I would also like to mention that even if it is a UVCV, this is not the question, but the corresponding question could be that if it's a UVCV, then again it's a substance. You don't need to have a PCN, but if these polymer or UVCVs are you are basically using and creating some mixture, and then these mixtures would require and it is an hazardous, of course, then it will require a PCN. So you need to access the identification part very clearly. And sometimes articles are also there, and people are finding that whether we need a PCN. So this identification scope is very important, and we have guidances on the substance identification or article identification to access that whether it meets this requirement. And then you will follow whether it is required or not. So this is, I think, the answer for you. Then PCN required for industrial samples. So the samples have a category defined already. We have also covered under the exemption scope, which is Article 2 and 30 of the CLP regulation. So this is also related to the hazards, physical hazards placed on the market. So this is exempted as long as it meets the definition, and I would recommend that you have declaration from the users, downstream users or importer, that indeed there are samples. Samples definition is important, and for research, of course, and development. So this, I think, a document declaration can help you to release your obligations when you perform or sell this substance into EU. Then we have new European hazards like endocrine disruptors, PCN relevant. The answer is yes, and this has already been also published in April this year. So you need to understand that there are already inclusions for these hazards statements that you need to consider while performing the PCN. And yes, the answer is yes to the question. And if you have specific query, then you can of course contact us directly. Then we have for submit the EU PCN of the mixture, is it do we need to have this threshold limit for reporting? It's, I think, one of the important aspect of how to select this. We have covered this. Of course, the content is important to cover, but it requires more deeper understanding and consultation. So the answer is yes. So there is defined ranges which needs to be respected. And but if you again here, if you need specific advice, then please contact us. Another question is, of course, I would like if to Devanshu to take this up. It's about could you please share your experience with Belgian authority regarding the known issue? I think we have also received this questions previously. So would you like to take it
Yes,
up?
thank you, Gagan. So yes, this Belgian authority regarding the concern with the payment, there is a clear requirement and transparent instructions given for payment on their website. But yes, this request generally is taken care by our customers and they handle it directly. However, if you have, we have not found any discrepant information or a gap in the information they provide on their website. But yes, if there is a specific case happened with you, you can contact us separately, and we can maybe monitor that and investigate and see if we can answer it particular to your scenario. Thank you.
Thank you, Devanshu. Then again, do you know whether Belgium, Hungary, and Italy plan to remove the cost for PCN? So I guess these news and news channels which we have recommended, please follow. We don't have any information at the moment. Then specific information on difference between handling PCN by foreign manufacturers or EU downstream users. So as we mentioned, the non-EU entity has no direct obligation, but it is mandatory for the duty holders, EU importers, downstream users, and different actors that you have to define and understand your role in the supply chain. But non-EU entity needs to support their importers because it is for the good cause and needs to support the regulation and requirement. And so this is working, and the objective of this requirement is fulfilled by the authorities handling this notifications and acting upon this. So this is, I think, voluntary submission is something which we recommend that would protect you from the CBI disclosure and also complete the requirements under this PCN for your importers. So consider this, and I think that will help you to maintain the business relationship also. Then for UVCV, I think I have covered this, this is a substance, then you do not require PCN, but if it is, and it's important that it's a substance, it's not a mixture. So the substance identification is very important. And then, of course, if you have several UVCVs and it's a mixture, then you have to follow mixture criteria to define the classification. Then we supply products to the EU and need to know if any GHS classification require notification on just categories 1 or 2 or just acute toxic categories, not CMRs or not environmental. So mixtures here are recommendation. Mixtures classified for all categories comes under health and physical hazards that would require notification and UFI generation. All others are voluntary basis, also covered by the Devanshu, that you can consider, but this is what mandatory requirements are for physical and health. So you need to access that. Then we have, are we the users example for the paint and adhesives affected by the PCN? If, for example, we pass on the mixtures to the subcontractors. So would you like to take this up, Devanshu?
Sure, Gagan. So yes, we would also like to get more clarity on this question. What is your role and to whom your supply in supply chain? But yes, as a general note, you can consider this text that end users are not required to do any kind of notification, but it should be performed by the upstream user, upstream supply chain. And further, yes, we appreciate if you provide highlight more information or clarity on this question we can address.
Yeah, the subcontractor, I think probably the definition and terms would require more. So please contact us if you need the specific advice here. Thank you, Devanshu. So with this, we come to the end of this session, and but as we see that, and we really appreciate once again for staying with us. We have really extended this session, but I hope it was useful. And please contact us if you need any support. We are happy to help. And if you need any consultation, please book it through this email ID. We, of course, are here to help understanding whatever portfolio obligations you have, or if you have any concern regarding your existing notifications, whether it requires modifications, anything, understanding requirements, timeline, cost, and process. So please contact us, and we would be responding to your request and arranging this consultation with you. And here are the contact details which you can use. So with this, I would like thank you for everyone and have a good day. Thank you.